Hello, this is Neil from iPaintGirls.com, and we're going to continue with perspective. I'm going to draw my horizon line. So what we've seen before is just some concepts with one-point perspective and how to use those concepts. I'm going to put a horizon line here, or a vanishing point here on the horizon line. I'm going to have it kind of in the middle, a little bit higher than the middle of the room. And so now we're going to use it to, what if we wanted to use one-point perspective to actually do something cool, like make a room. And I want to show you just how complicated one-point perspective could look. Okay, so this panel here by EBOS on the top, this top one here, this is actually one-point perspective. But you can see how complicated one-point perspective can get when you have objects stacked in front of each other, some higher, some lower. So the horizon line, somewhere down over here. See, that's kind of going down, so it's really low actually, and all of this stuff is coming down, towards that vanishing point over there. You can see these lines coming down over here. These ones are actually coming off, looks like, to a different point. Sometimes you can do that. Just fake it, and if it doesn't look right, put some of the stuff on objects to a different vanishing point. It's just like force perspective, and it works really good sometimes. But anyway, so there you go. It can get pretty complicated. So we want to use it now practically. We want to do something with it, like make a room or something, make something cool with it, right? So let's go ahead and get started on that then. This is our center point, our vanishing point. We're going to work, everything's going to go back to that point. So the first thing we'll do is maybe draw a back wall to our room. So we're going to say that that will be our back wall. Once you have the back wall, then you're going to want to draw the lines from that back wall coming out. And really, these lines, what you do is you fall from this point here, run through the corner of that box, like so. And this is how you'll get the start of your room. This is how you know where your ceiling and everything is at. Right, so all that up there is the ceiling, wall, and floor. So one trick that's kind of cool you can do is you can have equally spaced marks on this line here. I'll go ahead and do that really quick. Alright, so something like that, and I have them on a separate layer over here. Then I'm going to put a lock on that layer now and go back to my original layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to do planks across the ceiling, or tiles or something. So it doesn't have to be perfect, just they're somewhat evenly spaced, and then draw from that horizon or from that vanishing point outward to where it connects to each one of those points, where it crosses each one of those points, where it crosses the box line. And we'll go up and push pause while I finish doing those. Right, it's not perfect, because I didn't go to the center every single time, but whatever, it's close enough. Right, then you draw a line, go back to the guides layer, because I'm going to delete that layer when I'm done with the guides. You go across from the corner to the corner up here to the corner of your paper, and where that line meets each one of these lines, that's where we're going to draw a horizontal line going across there. And this will make your tiles. So I'm going to, oh actually no, I made that on the wrong layer, didn't I? I want to make that, no, that's on the right layer. Oh yeah, okay. Never mind, sorry about that. Go back to this layer, and then I'm going to draw in my horizontal lines. Oops, wrong button. And it's just going to be meeting each one of those lines, like I said. That one went way too high. Go ahead and put it back down to where it's right on where that intersects. I'll do one more just so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm actually going to start it from there just to make it easier. Then I'll move the other way as well. So like that, but it's going to go all the way across on this side too. But just so you can see what I'm talking about, I start it there, make it easier for myself. I'm going to go all the way up like that. Okay, now my ceiling tiles are in perspective. Now I can get rid of that guides layer. Now I just got my ceiling tiles there, and then I also want to get rid of these lines down here. I can erase those. Alright, so now we have our perspective tiles on the ceiling there. And now we want to make a window over here. So let's just go ahead and draw some straight lines. We'll draw one straight line first, and then make another layer for the guidelines, and draw them back to that point. And actually, no, I should have, let me do that from here out. That way if I want to make the window longer, that way I can. I can make it that way or this way. Let's see, I'll go ahead and make it about here, and draw that line down, like so. So now we have how much we want the window to be. Go back to the guides layer, mark the center of the window by making an X through it. We learned this in the first part. And then draw a line straight down through that. And that's not quite perfect, so I'll move it over a little bit like that, or 1 pixel. Okay, so then we can go back to this layer here. If we wanted to, we can actually mark one more center part of the window, and that's that line there. So if you wanted to do beams, the cross beams of the window, you could do that. But let's say we just wanted to do the inside the window, because it has a thickness, like the wall has a thickness, the window has a thickness. And so how thick is it going to be? Well, you can make it however thick you want, but we're going to make it kind of thin. What you're going to do though is, with your guidelines, is you need to draw a line there and a line there for that's going to be your thickness, right, for that part. And remember, because we're on this side of the window, that is the camera, we're on this side over here looking out, we would see this side of, like if it's a hole in the wall, we'd see this part and not this part. I'll show you what I mean in a second, but we'll go ahead and now go to the actual drawing layer and draw a line up. I want it to be a little bit thicker than that. So I'm going to start from like here, okay, come down to that line there, and now I have that part of the window I can see. Right, another thing I'm going to do is, on this drawing layer, is I'm going to zoom in a bit here if you can see what I'm doing with this window. I'm going to draw a line from here to here. It helps if my guidelines are a different color. This line doesn't go all the way down, it should. So I have to fix that. And I'm just going to do that really quick. Then if I disappear my lines there, you'll see what I'm talking about. The reason why I didn't draw that all the way up is because this actually comes at an angle like so, and like so. And then again, with the perspective lines, you're going to want to draw this, and then I can get rid of some of them. Let me go ahead and zoom out here. And perspective is so time consuming. So draw where you meet that point from your perspective line. I'm going to meet it to there if I don't have to erase much. And then from that line, like that. Then I just grab my scissors tool. I click there on the line. I click where I want to erase the other part of the line. Then you have to select that line to erase it, like so. Right. So then, actually, I forgot to. I needed to go all the way to here when I was erasing. So just click on those points. It's easier if you zoom in sometimes. And then I can click here to get rid of that line and that line. Right. So now we have part of the window. I can also get rid of that horizon line, but I'm not getting rid of it yet, so I would still need it for drawing everything else. So anyway, as you can see, that's a quick window. And you know what? Man, I feel dumb now. I wasn't even thinking. This is incorrect. The window would not look like this because we're either viewing it from below or from above. So our camera, we're going to say, is viewing slightly from below the horizon line. That's where we're at as the viewer. And so we would only see the top part of the window. And also remember, look at the horizon line, most of the window is on top. And so remember I said you'd see the bottom of things? And if this window was down here more, then we'd see the bottom part, and we wouldn't see the top part, but we'd see this bottom part that I had there. But you can't see both. That's not possible. Not unless you're like viewing at it from over here. We're here looking this way. Really this is stuff that you just have to think about what looks right, and then you just do that. And eventually you just start winging all of this stuff, but you got to get the basics down in your brain and do them over and over again, and then you can start winging it. But perspective all works like this. So single point perspective isn't too difficult. Make some guidelines, or you can actually work on this layer, then erase them. Let's say you wanted a bed or something, a chair or something over here. Draw one guideline, draw another guideline for how thick you're going to want the object to be. So let's say something like that. And then you would draw horizontal lines going across. And let's say I want it to be about this big here. That's the bottom. And then you need to extend the lines up for the shape of the object. So The shape can get really complex. It just really depends on you and how complex you want the shape to be. I could also use this as a square to do that. It'd be easier actually. And then you have to draw the perspective again for those corners to make sure they match up. And I matched them up right, but I didn't match up that side right, so I can erase those lines and then redraw like that, so that way I can make sure that the perspective lines are a match on those two boxes. So they don't really match right now, but that's fine, whatever. Right, so I'm almost out of time, so I went ahead and redrew that box, then drew the lines going to it. That way, when I draw another square, I can make it to where it can match into there. Oops, forgot to put. I had to redraw it real quick. Now you can see the square there and the square there matching the background. And then I can start shaping this object. And that's where it kind of gets a little complicated, but I'm out of time, so I'll come back.